What's with stealth? A stealth game is a game in which the player character's objective is to avoid attention while traversing an environment. The first dedicated stealth game was 1987's Metal Gear for the MSX2. While there were stealth games before Metal Gear, this is the first title to have both lasting significance and stealth mechanics developed enough to be inarguably stealth gameplay. After that, the genre saw little development until the PC release of Thew, the Dark Project, in 1998. Thew is credited with creating the mainstays of the stealth genre and implementing them with a kind of polish that few titles have managed to include since. It introduced the use of lighting and shadow, letting the player know exactly how visible they were at any given moment, a soundscape that kept the player informed on how audible they were, as well as the location of enemies, and a suite of tools that allowed players to distract or pacify threats, explore new areas, and adjust their surroundings to better remain undetected. In today's industry, we're seeing stealth just about everywhere. Batman is stealthy, Assassin's Creed is stealthy, Deus Ex is stealthy. But are these games actually stealth games? Frequently, the community and industry market these games as stealth, but one should consider the fundamental components of a stealth game to judge the veracity of this. The stealth genre is ultimately defined by three features. The first is reactive states. A stealth game must have dynamic hazards that react to the presence and actions of the player. This can mean an enemy reacting to the player making a sound, resulting in them deviating from their patrol path or noticing the player and pursuing them. Usually, this also entails the ability to return to the previous unaware state when the player is no longer observed. Without reactive enemies, the game risks becoming an obstacle course. If colliding with a vision cone on a hazard that moves in perfect clockwork triggers instant failure, then we're playing a game of reflex rather than stealth. A stealth game should have the possibility of avoiding the alert state of enemies, though this could be accomplished by provoking some other reaction from the relevant actors, perhaps via distraction. The second feature is open-ended level design. The goal in a stealth game is often very clear. However, the player should have the freedom to choose exactly how they want to achieve this goal. Perhaps they want to sneak past every enemy and stay completely unseen, or maybe they want to stealthily subdue every enemy they come across. The best of stealth games, however, give the players multiple paths to take with each of these different playstyles. Ultimately, stealth games are all about mobility and giving the player the ability to access all sorts of different places. This provides the player with clear, defined paths that they're able to take through the level so they don't spend too much time just wandering, while also adding replayability so one could play it again taking a different approach to each level. The third trait may seem self-evident, possibly even patronizing to mention, but a stealth game must have stealth as its core mechanic. Every other mechanic should further the player's ability to avoid enemies. Combat should exist to allow the player a means of escape. RPG elements should improve the player's awareness, ability to remain undetected, or agency in provoking reactions from enemies. Platforming should allow the player to outmaneuver threats, and puzzling should increase the player's awareness and mobility. But how does one determine whether or not stealth is a core mechanic? Is Assassin's Creed a stealth game? Well, maybe. In this day and age, one could argue that Pac-Man is a stealth game because you try to avoid the ghosts and they react to your movements. But it's obvious that wouldn't be a very reasonable argument to make. One could argue virtually anything, but when we interpret the intention of a game based on the quantity and quality of its mechanics, some games can make a reasonable argument that stealth is their central mechanic. And then there are some that really can't. Look at a game like Dark Souls. Sure, it technically has the basic elements of a stealth game, but it's quite obvious that the stealth mechanic supplements the game's focus on combat and not the other way around. Okay, but what about a game like Batman? Surely as long as I'm darting from shadow to shadow with the intention of giving one of my enemies the surprise cuddle of doom, I'm playing a stealth game, even if it doesn't really fit the description we've just laid out. Well, perhaps. As works of art, video games have the unique property of being able to distinguish between their mechanics and aesthetics. Stealth sits in the awkward and possibly unique position of being both a mechanical genre and an aesthetic one. Yes, any game that features sneaking characters dodging vision cones is a stealth game, but it's clearly of a different caliber. It becomes easy to see that putting aesthetically stealthy games under the umbrella of the genre could lead to some misunderstandings of what makes a game a stealth game. Take a look at Spy Chameleon RGB Agent. The title alone has 3 implicit stealth words, and the gameplay involves a great deal of staying hidden. The main goal is to avoid vision cones. There are also certain colored grounds upon which you're allowed to pass through the cones as long as you're the correct color. But one could easily take the mechanics of this game, paint it differently, and it would no longer be a stealth game. Look at the game Fly Wrench. The main goal of this game is to avoid touching these lines, though you can pass through the lines if you're the correct color. But no one would call Fly Wrench a stealth game. This is because it has neither the mechanical nor aesthetic features of the genre. There's plenty of room for both flavors of game, but it falls to you, dear viewer, to be cognizant of the differences between the two. Having a good definition of the genre will help it to evolve and expand, and being aware of these differences will help you find more of the games you like to play. So what's the point? Stealth is an ambiguous genre. This is because the word can be used to describe aesthetic stealth as well as mechanical stealth, and these two don't always coincide. Moreover, games fitting the description of aesthetic stealth in today's industry tend to be lacking in mechanical stealth features. The next time you play a stealth game, take a look at how it plays and ask yourself, is this game actually a stealth game? If the answer to this question is no, there's nothing wrong with that. Just please don't tag it on Steam as stealth. It's hard enough to find a good mechanically stealthy game as is, and this is just making it worse, like dang. And that's what's with stealth. There's always a very long list of special thanks at the end of each of these videos, but I'd like to take a moment to give a very special thanks to two very helpful people for this video. The first is Justin OneHandedSquire Lyga, who helped me to get a lot of information for this video, as well as got me a lot of footage. The other is Geoff Thew of Mother's Basement, who also helped me a lot in writing this episode. If you want to see more of Geoff's work, you can click right there and see the video that I did with him on his channel. We did a review of Splatoon. For more of my work, you can click on the link on the left to watch my latest What's With Games before this, What's With Player Control, which Geoff also helped to write. And also a special thanks to you, viewer, for getting through the whole video. If you're interested, you should totally subscribe, and don't forget to follow What's With Games on Facebook and Twitter.